Since the 1800s, people from all around the world have packed up their belongings and immigrated to the United States. Whether it be in search of religious freedom or coming in search of work, people have risked everything in search of a better life in America. These people came expecting roads paved with gold, but what they encountered was anything but. Many immigrants arrived at Ellis Island in New York, not speaking a word of English. These people were not treated fairly and were often taken advantage of, but those who accepted the challenge of assimilating eventually made something of themselves. The immigration boom ended with the 1800s, but many people continued to come to America in the 20th century. Although it was a different time period, many of the challenges these immigrants faced were similar to those of their counterparts of the 1800s. Luigi D'Amico was born in Sant'Eufemia, a small town in the mountains of Italy a couple hours outside of Rome, in 1939. The first years of his life were very difficult, as Italy was in the midst of the Second World War. Sant'Eufemia was occupied by the German soldiers, and a normal life was nearly impossible.
Remember the German soldiers? One guy used to come to the town where we used to live. There was a nice guy who used to come with a big bag with the bread and chocolate. Mm-hmm. And we kids would hide behind the house there, and he used to call us and give us some bread and chocolate. Mm-hmm. And one night, at the end of the war, there was a plane. We could see the plane, we can hear the noise of that the plane was making a lot of noise. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, when we hear this big bang, it was a winter time, and we didn't hear anything. It was foggy. Mm-hmm. So in the morning, they cleared up in the morning. It was a beautiful day, and that plane is smashed in the mound. You know the mound of my town? Yeah. Halfway up, the plane hit the mound. Uh-huh. There was a German plane with all the soldiers. They died. Uh-huh. And then, after the war, when Italy had become a republic, uh-huh. What happened? They took Mussolini. They hanged him. Uh-huh. They killed Mussolini, and they formed the republic.
After the war ended, he was able to attend the local school through 5th grade, and then went to learn from the local blacksmith. He married Vera Crivelli, and not long after their marriage, the couple was faced with the decision of a lifetime. There was not much work in Italy, and the future of the country was very uncertain. The newlyweds had to decide whether to continue life in Italy or immigrate to the United States in search of a better life. Neither of them spoke a word of English, and leaving behind all of their friends and family terrified them. Nevertheless, they made their decision and sent in their immigration application papers to the consulate.
Italy was too much work, so they came in this country, my wife, and then I decided to come in this country for a better life, to get a better job.
It was tough, yeah.
Well, it wasn't easy to leave my country because I left all my family and friends and everybody, but we decided to come over.
The two were getting ready to start their new life together when they received some bad news. Only Vera was eligible for immigration. Similar to today, there were immigration quotas, and only a certain number of people per country were allowed to immigrate to the United States per year. Italy's quota had been filled. However, Vera had a few relatives who had already immigrated and became citizens, so she was eligible to make the trip. Only to add another twist to their story, Vera was pregnant with a baby boy. Now the two were faced with the decision that so many immigrant families deal with year after year. Should she leave for America and ensure American citizenship for their baby boy? Or should the pair stay in Italy and raise their child in an unstable country? They eventually decided that Vera would leave for the United States, while Luigi waited in Italy, hoping to be allowed to immigrate. Vera landed in Boston, where she was met by family members in the North End. Not long after, she gave birth to a baby boy. Luigi had missed the birth of his son, ironically born on the 4th of July. Luigi and Vera began to wonder if Luigi would ever be granted admission, and decided that Vera would travel back to Italy so they could be together. Not very long after Vera and the baby returned, President John F. Kennedy announced an immigration reform in which the quota system would be changed. At the time, countries such as Germany were allowed a high quota, which they did not fill, whereas Italy's quota was much smaller. With a focus on family reunification, Kennedy changed this. Luigi received a call from the American consulate and was told that he could immigrate to the United States. His dream of a new life in America was still very much alive.
And then when Kennedy became a president, they changed the name of the court, and they called me from the Italian American consul, and we got the paperwork, and we came all together, me, Danny, and the wife. Kennedy, because the other country, like Germany and the other country, they had a high quota. They had like 10,000 people a year. And Italy, they only had a small court. Mm-hmm. But the other country, they didn't use all the courts. So they decided to change the court, and that way the relative, they can reunion together, the wife and the husband.
On December 12th, 1965, Luigi, Vera, and their son Danny all boarded a plane for the first time in their lives. Their destination was Boston, Massachusetts. Their goal was a new life together. They arrived in Boston and were met by relatives and brought to the North End.
It was lousy weather in Boston with snow and rain, and I was scared because they told me that the airport was near the water. So when we get close to the runway to come down, and the cloud had disappeared, all I could see the water. And I said to my wife, I said, "Where's the land?" I said, "We're going to get killed today." Finally, we landed in Boston, and that time it was a glass wall at the airport. And we came out, before we went to the custom, I could see all the relatives there. They were waiting in the winter, so they were all wait for us, and then Bruno, my cousin, picked us up, and they took us to the house in the North End.
Just like the many Italian immigrants before him, Luigi found solace in Boston's North End. The North End gave him the opportunity to assimilate into American society while still holding tight to his Italian roots. Luigi, Vera, and their baby boy lived in a small apartment with many other relatives. Living spaces were cramped, but better than what they had in Italy. Life as an immigrant was tough for Luigi. He had immigrated not knowing a word of English, so on top of working multiple jobs, he found time to attend Michelangelo High School, a night school for immigrants trying to learn English. In one room, an American school teacher attempted to teach English to men of all different backgrounds, including Italian, Spanish, German, and Portuguese.
First year, I think I went to Michelangelo High School at night. I still got the diploma. I got the other day. We went in a night school, 2 hours. I think it was 2 nights a week. We used to go there. I think it was from 7 to 9 o'clock. I think so. There was a teacher there, and I used to teach a little English. The only problem was, it was all from different country. There was some Spanish and Italian. It was confusion. It wasn't easy. And then I went to I think I went 1 year. I went to the school in the Watertown High School in the night. And then I tried to learn a little English a little bit at a time.
Although going to night school was beneficial, Luigi was able to learn the language best from the many jobs he worked. Luigi worked multiple jobs, usually involving the creation of sheet metal for the production of new technology, such as televisions and radios. After many stints at various ironworks factories, Luigi eventually settled in at Standard Steel of Watertown, a job he sees as a turning point in his life. After years of long, hard work, Luigi had saved up enough money to move his family out of the cramped quarters of the North End and into the suburbs of Watertown. No longer surrounded by other Italians, life in Watertown was very different for the family. Instead of being just another family, they were now known as the Italians. However, moving out of the North End allowed the family to assimilate even more. Their 2 sons grew up in Watertown, playing their native sport of soccer in the fall, but also played basketball and baseball in the winter and spring. The boys quickly became ordinary American children and had successfully assimilated.
Well, North End was nice because we were all Italian. Watertown was better for the kids because they had more, you got the house, you go to school, you go play, you go to the park, and North End was nothing. It wasn't easy to stay in the North End. Yeah. You found Danny when we moved to Watertown, first year at the school, the teacher asked where he was born. He didn't know he was born in this country because he didn't speak one word of English. Because in the North End, there was a kids next door there, and they would speak Italian and speak Italian with us, with the friend, with everybody. So he didn't know one word of English. So then we moved to Watertown and started going to school in Watertown and play baseball, play things. It was different.
After years of hard work at Standard Steel, Luigi was given an incredible opportunity. The owner had become sick and was offering the business to Luigi. He and his friend purchased the business, and he still owns it to this very day. By purchasing Standard Steel, Luigi had opened up many new doors for his family. The business prospered, and Luigi would eventually be able to send his 2 children to college because of it.
I would say it's tough. It's not easy to be an immigrant because you go in a different country, you don't speak the language, maybe you don't know how to do the job they give it to you. Sometimes you're looking for a job, but you find something, you have to take them. You can't just say, I don't like the job, I want another job.
Yeah.
And I think it's very, very hard for people. They leave the country, they go to another country. Besides, you leave all your family and you go someplace you don't know. You don't know what they told you. They told you something, probably you do another thing because you don't understand what they told you. And it's very. I think it's very bad. It's tough. It's not easy. Well, it's a little bit of time, I think we did pretty good.
Luigi D'Amico's immigrant story is not very different from other immigrants of the time period in that he made incredible sacrifices to ensure a better life for future D'Amicos. He was willing to give up all that was familiar to him in search of a better life. He worked hard to learn the language, and when given a good opportunity, he took it and ran with it. Being an immigrant is no easy task, but in this land of opportunity we call home, anything is possible. In his annual visits to Sant'Eufemia, Italy, Luigi can now tell all the people that he left that his sacrifices were well worth the risk. He tells them that despite all of his years of hardship, he and his family now live the American dream.